Give us the red light.
You're
Okay.
Right.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Today is the 16th day of Cheshvan 5776. Portion of the week is Vayera. Last time we checked. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited about, God willing, the next set of classes. 1 year ago, same bat channel, same bat time. Really, exactly 1 year ago, the same month, we had about 3 or 4 classes. It was called Ishmael Arabs 101. And right now, God willing, we're going to do also 3 or 4 classes on the same subject, but all new sources. So, I mean, I was really amazed that there's so much out there on the Arabs, on the Ishmael. So, except we're going to change the name. The name of this series is not going to be Arabs Ishmael 101 or all you wanted to know but were afraid to ask. I have a new concept that I like. They have these books out. It's called Blank for Dummies. It's like the 101 book if you want to just learn something basic. So now they don't use the terminology 101. They call it for dummies. So this series is going to be called Arabs for Dummies. Yishmael for Dummies. The end of days for dummies. Okay, so I'm excited about it. Hope you guys also are into it. Okay, let's take it. We're going to go step by step. And we're going to see God, with God's help, we're going to see amazing things. We're going to see the news in front of our eyes, but through the Torah and through the holy commentators of the Torah, as if we're sitting down and watching Fox, CNN News. Okay. We have in last week's portion of the week, Lech Lecha, we had this case where after 10 years of being in the Holy Land, in Eretz Yisrael, after 10 years, Abraham is now, when he came to the land of Israel, was 75 years old. 10 years later, it's 85. So there's a law that allows a person after 10 years, if you see that you have not you've not been blessed with children, you are allowed to break the connection, divorce, and try a different connection. So, after 10 years in the land of Israel, no children for Abraham and Sarah. So, Sarah suggests that Abraham takes a daughter of Pharaoh. Her name was Hagar. And she takes that Abraham should take this midwife, and they should get married. And maybe through this connection, Sarah also will have a breakthrough. Which means that if something happens in a good sense, if Abraham and Hagar are able to have a child, this too will have influence on perhaps allowing Sarah to have a child herself. Okay, so after some time, we see the Torah tells us in last week's portion that Hagar begins to kind of lack respect towards Sarah. And when Sarah sees this, and she sees the influence that it's having on other women that know Sarah, that come to hear her speak words of Torah, classes. So she comes down with a hard hand against Hagar. She starts, not going to get into right now, but she came down with a hard hand, a heavy hand. You know, like I saw this classic. There was, I think in South Carolina, there was in a high school, there was a girl that was acting up, and the teacher asked her to please leave the room. She refused to leave the room. So as a teacher today, what can you do? You know what I'm saying? If you touch the kid, they probably sue you, or you probably go to jail, or you know, not like it was in my day. So what does the teacher do? The teacher calls the police that are in the school. So the cop comes. Man, you got to see this. This guy, he just like lifts her up, you know, boom, throws her on the floor. She refuses, you know, tosses her again on the floor. Eventually, he gets her out of that, you know, class. Okay, so Sarah comes down with a hard hand against Hagar, and Hagar runs away. Hagar runs away. Okay. And the question is, how does the Torah look at the actions of Sarah against Hagar? How does it look at those actions? So we have the first source that we have is by a tremendous rabbi who lived in Spain before the expulsion of the Jews. Spain. His name is Rav Avraham Sava. He has a book, a classic book on the Torah. It's a commentary on the Torah. It's called Tzror Hamor. And in there, on the in Genesis, we're on 16, chapter 16, verse 16a. It works out really well. 16, and today is the 16th of Cheshvan, man. We got a full deck. Okay.
Trifecta.
It's one of those hat tricks. I think in hockey it's called a hat trick.
Yep.
Listen to this. Rav Saba writes the following. We have, this verse was written in the Torah to teach us the result of these actions by Sarah against Hagar. This led to the exile of the Jewish people because Sarah was not kind enough to Hagar. This led, the Jewish people were punished and they were exiled eventually. And from this, because of her actions, came out a child. His name is Ishmael. This Ishmael, he took our land. He took our temple, our Beit HaMikdash, and he rules all over the land of Israel. Once again, this is the time before the expulsion of Spain. So, Rav Sava says that this action, Sarah's tough actions, caused a tremendous punishment for the Jewish people. Now, along with Rav Avram Sava, we have the Ramban, Rav Moshe Nachmani. In his commentary on the Torah, he writes the same spirit of words. He tells us that because of the actions, the harsh actions of Sarah, the Jewish people became subservient to the children of Ishmael, to the Arab nation, because of the actions here that were taken. Okay, now, with that said, we're going to take a little bit of a pause for a second and see some amazing things here. On this connection between Abraham, Hagar, and the result being the birth of Ishmael, the father of the Arab nations. We're going to see some wild things. Our sources are going to be threefold. They're going to be the Chida, number one. Number two, we have Rav Moshe David Vali, who was the star pupil of the Ramchal, who wrote The Path of the Just. And we're going to have the Igra Dekala, which otherwise known as Bnei Yisachar. And they all prophesy, so to speak, in the same manner. Listen to these unbelievable Torah that we're about to hear from these three giants. Okay, let's start from the Chida. The Chida writes as follows. Why? We have to understand, it says in the Zohar Kadosh, it says that Abraham and Sarah converted 1 million people. Abraham converted men, and Sarah converted women. So let's say it was 50-50. Say it's 50-50. So Sarah converted approximately 500,000 women. I'm sure she knows a lot of people. She knew a lot of people. She was in contact with a lot of people. Why did she choose, out of all the 500,000 women that she knew, why did she choose Hagar? So the Chida writes an unbelievable explanation. As we know, the Torah has no vowels in there. So you could read the words in different fashions. So if you take the name Hagar, Sarah looked at the name Hagar, and now listen closely. We know that in Judaism, in life, a person's name is very, very important. It tells the essence of who a person is. I once heard a great line on this. We know that there's a body. The body is not us. The body is exterior to us, just the body. After 120 years, the body leaves. Okay, and the body separates from us. Who are we then? We are the soul. We are the soul. The soul is the interior part of who we really are. It's the inside. Within the soul, there's a even deeper interior. What's that? If we take the word neshama, which means in English soul, so it has 4 letters. If we look at the word neshama, soul, and we take off the first and last letter in order to get to the interior letters, 2 interior letters, those 2 inside letters spell out the word name, Shem. Once again, look at the word neshama, take off the nun, take off the hey, the exterior letters of the soul, and go for the interior letters. They are Shin and Mem, a person's name. So once again, in summation, we have the body, which is totally exterior. It's not us. We have the soul, which is really us. And within the soul, we have our name. The name is kind of all our DNA, who we really are. Now, we might not reach who we are, but that is our potential. That is everything in a capsule. Our name represents everything. All our 70 or 80 or 90 years that we're going to be here, our name represents what we're here to do, what we're here to rectify in this world. Okay? So, the Chida says an unbelievable, beautiful Torah. He says that Sarah looked at the name of Hagar, and as we said, the Torah does not have vowels, and you could read her name instead of Hagar, Hager, which means converts. Sarah saw incorrectly, she thought that from the descendants of Hagar with Avraham would come out all the future converts to Judaism. So this is the original reason why she took Hagar, because that's what she saw.
It's interesting, Rabbi, that if you go to your Samson lectures, Samson tried to go in and rectify the situation male to female. Again, maybe he thought, since Sarah tried to do it female to female, that and she wasn't able to do it, that maybe he could. It's interesting to see this, how both of them went down into the lowest of the low,
exactly,
to try to bring it up into a holiness.
Okay, so the Chida says, look at another point. Sarah made that mistake. Okay, second point. How old was Abraham when he gave birth to, when him and Hagar gave birth to Ishmael? Now, you'll see in the Torah, 99.9% of the time, the Torah does not tell us how old a person is when they had a child. So if the Torah mentions the fact what age, there's something important to be learned. Abraham was 86 at the time that Ishmael was born. Now this is very important. Listen closely. God has many names. God has many names, attributes. Each name represents a certain kind of face, one might say, of God. A different aspect of God. The word Elohim, which is one of the names of God, Elohim, the numerical value of the word Elohim comes out to 86. The name Elohim, when you see it in the Torah, it means tremendous, strict judgment by God. So, not very good. We're not looking for strict judgment. We're looking for mercy. That's what we're looking for. Rachamim and chesed. Kindness. Mercy. So the Chida writes that it was not by chance that Abraham gave birth to Ishmael at the age of 86, which represents strict judgment. And therefore, who is Ishmael? Ishmael will be that pawn which will inflict upon the Jewish people strict judgment. Amazing thing. So the age of Abraham is extremely important here. He's at the age of 86, which represents strict judgment, all kinds of what we call dinim, gvura, but not from a good place, from a impure source, because there is judgment, which is a tremendous kindness, which comes from a good place. Who's that? Yitzchak. Think about it. We have two sons that were born at the same time, approximately the same time. We have Isaac and we have Ishmael. They're both on the same wavelength. They both represent judgment, gvura in this world, except for the fact that Ishmael is on the left side, which is the impure side of judgment, of punishment, and Yitzchak represents the good side of judgment, which means if a person is just a person who loves and loves and loves and loves, and he has no backbone, so to speak, doesn't put his foot down, he doesn't say anything, doesn't rebuke his family, his kids, or himself, that guy's in dire straits. Because we need to be balanced. We need a right foot, which represents kindness, and we need a left foot, which represents din or judgment. We have to be balanced. So we can't just have a world where we let everyone just do what they want. On the other hand, we can't have a world that's just, hey, if you make the wrong move, we're gonna chop off your head. Well, that's the Arab kingdom, that's the Ishmael kingdom. It's judgment. It's all kinds of terror in a impure kind of fashion. Okay, now listen to this one. The Chida is not finished with us here, man. He's given us the 1-2 punch, but he's going to give us the third TKO. He says, take the name. We said that Sarah looked at the name of Hagar, and she came up. She was sure that the inner side of Hagar would be the mother of all the converts. Hagar. The Chida says she was wrong. Because if you look at her name, okay, if you look at the name comes out to, if you scramble the letters of Hagar, you come out with the word Geira. There are two signs of a kosher animal. One is that they have split hooves, and the second sign of kosher animal is that they chew their cud. They swallow it, it comes back up, and they swallow it and regurgitate it again and again. Sounds very interesting. So the Chida brings down the Arizal. The Arizal says that Ishmael represents, in the animal kingdom, he represents the Gamal, the camel. The camel has one sign of being kosher, and that is that he chews his cud. But we know the following, that he tries to show that he's kosher, the camel, just like the pig. They try to show that they are kosher, but in reality, the truth is that the pig and also the camel are not kosher at all. They have one sign that they like to show on CNN, on Sky, on the Fox. They show that they're kosher. They've been robbed. They're the poor people. They're the, gotta cry for them, pass the tissues. Whoa. And the last words, listen closely, of the Chida. Here's the TKO. And almost no converts will come from Ishmael. Many, many years ago, I saw the Tzanzer Rebbe of Netanya. He wrote a certain Torah article, and he writes there, notice how 99.9% of the converts throughout history have always come from the Christian world and not from Ishmael, the Arab Muslim world. It starts back tremendously where Sarah looked at the name of Hagar and she mistaken that this was going to be the mother of all the converts to come, and it turns out that they represent Ishmael. The Arabs represent the camel, and the camel, besides for the fact that we said that he tries to win you over by his one kosher sign, even though he's unkosher, but besides for that, even deeper is the following. What's deeper is that Chazal teach us, the rabbis teach us, that when the angels saw Adam and Eve, they began to, so to speak, worship them. They began to worship them. They were so impressed, and these are angels who are on a tremendously high spiritual level. They began to worship Adam and Eve. Now the top angel, Satan, it says that he said to the other angels, I have to take over here, because I can't let him do this, We have to be on top, not him. I have to mess them up. I have to cause them to sin in order to lower their level. I don't want them to be on my level or higher than my level. As we know, the Jewish people, if we take advantage of our time and learn Torah, do mitzvot, we are even higher than the angels. The angels actually wait. I'm not talking about the California angels. But the angels wait for the Jewish people to sing until they're allowed to sing. So they wait for us. They take their cues from us. So the Arizal points out this tremendous chazal that says that the Satan, Samech Mem, he took his vehicle, so to speak, to come to the world and cause Adam and Eve to sin, was the camel. If you notice, when our forefathers and mothers, when they travel, they never traveled with camels. They rode on donkeys. The only time we see a future mother of the Jewish people, Rivka, when she meets Yitzchak, she immediately, what happens?
She fell off.
She falls off. Because now you're with Yitzchak. Mrs., now you're with Isaac. No camels here. She falls right off. Now think about that one. We've been taught since we were 3 years old. We talk about that, falling off the camel. It sounded kind of like cool. Kind of like, oh, maybe she didn't know how to ride well. There's a spiritual greatness here involved in her falling off. It represents something. So the Arizal says that in this world, the vehicle of the Satan, of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination who comes to make us sin, the vehicle is the camel. The vehicle is the Arabs, the Ishmaelim, Islam. They are a vehicle to either bring us down, or if we're able to strengthen ourselves, bring us up, bring us back to tshuva, and have them destroyed. Who's going to rule here? Are we going to rule over? It says the righteous people rule over their evil inclination, and the wicked are ruled by the evil inclination. Who's going to rule? Are we going to rule over the evil inclination? Are we going to rule over the Arabs? Are the Arabs going to rule over us? That's the question. That the Arabs represent the vehicle which the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclinations, uses as a punishment or as a test to the Jewish people to see what we're going to do, how we're going to relate to these Arabs, to the Ishmaelim, to Islam. Okay, that's number one. Number two, very similar, but we're going to take one little difference. Rav Moshe David Vali, the prize student of the Ramchal, Path of the Just, famous book, he writes that, take a look at this. Why did Hashem set up that Sarah didn't have a child first with Abraham? It seems like it would have been a fair thing to do. It would have been a nice thing to do, a proper thing to do. Such righteous people, let them first have a kid. Maybe some years later they're not able to have kids. Okay, what happened here? So Rav Vali goes on the same direction. Listen closely. When Abraham was brought into the world, Abraham was brought into the world via pollution, tumah. How is that? His father Terach, his mother Amtilai. Abraham was born when the mother was in a forbidden time to have relations. During the cycle of the month, the menstrual cycle of the month, that is when they had relations. And the Torah teaches us, back in those days, that even the Gentile world during that time of the month refrained from having relations. But not Abraham's parents. And through that union, Abraham was born. Tremendous thing. Because the Torah teaches us that there are 9 types of children. There are 9 types of forbidden relations that if you go ahead and have those relations, the results are going to be tragic. And one of those 9 is called B'nai Nida. Children that were born during a time where the couple was forbidden to be together with each other. Okay, so now, because of this so-called spiritual pollution, we'll call it, that Abraham has within him, we got to get it out. We got to get it out, right? Let's say somebody ate something bad. What do? Drink a lot of water in order to get it out. You got to flush out the system. Put water. So the same thing spiritually. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on purpose, does not allow Abraham and Sarah to have children. Why? Because if they have children together, the result is not going to be positive. It's going to be negative. Why? Because there's all these spiritual impurities that are in Abraham because of how he was born. And maybe until he reached to the greatness that he was, until he understood that there's a God in the world that's also past time. So, Shem works amazing. What does he do? He sets up the fact that they have no children, and then Abraham eventually gets set up with Hagar, and they have this child. Now all this impurity, spiritual impurity, pollution that was present in Abraham now goes to the Arabs, Ishmael, Islam. All that impurity goes to them. Therefore, as we said, Isaac and Ishmael are 2 sides of one coin. They both represent judgment, deen, except for the judgment, the deen of Ishmael comes from impurity. All you have to do is turn on your sets, turn on your computers, turn on your TV sets. You'll see what I'm talking about. Tremendous judgment. They take the sword, chop people's heads off, blow people, tremendous crimes that they do. So they have this tremendous amount of strict judgment, and they're using it improperly. On the other hand, we have strict judgment, which is on a pure level. That's Isaac. And ironically, it says in the Gemara in Shabbat that of all the forefathers, in the end of days, Hashem will turn to Abraham, he'll turn to Jacob, and he'll ask, say, listen, there's forces out there, they want to destroy the Jewish people. And Abraham will say, and Jacob will say, listen, if they've desecrated God's name, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Yeah, just let it be. Who? Abraham, a man of kindness. Jacob, a man of mercy. Let it be. What's going to be with the Jewish people? Let them destroy us? Save us? Abraham, woo, yeah. Who comes to the rescue? Yitzchak. Yitzchak? Mr. Judgment, Mr. Dean. Okay? He is the one that comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he comes to God, and he explains to God how the Jewish people are worthy and they should not be destroyed. It's actually him. And it's because, not against, he used his characteristic trait in a proper fashion. He didn't go against that trait. I'm not going to get into all the details. But he used that trait, and that eventually brought him to speak kindly about the Jewish people, and he's the one that eventually saves the Jewish people in the end of days. Okay? So listen to this final knockout by Rav Vali. If you take the numerical value of Hagar, it comes out to 208. If you take the numerical value of Yitzchak, it comes to 208. Which means, what we've been saying, that Isaac and Ishmael are two sides of one coin. One side of the coin is a pure, holy side. The other is an impure, polluted side of the same characteristic trait.
It's interesting, Rabbi, how the bloodlust of the parents led to a bloodlust through the grandchild.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that point up, because interesting enough, there are many opinions within the commentators that when we look at the two forces of evil, two top forces of evil in the world, we come up, of course, with Ishmael and Esav, the Christian world and the Muslim world. Now, in many, many sources, Torah tells us that the actual murderers are on the side of the Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And the side of Ishmael is a side of kindness, but it's impure and it's lust. Exactly as you mentioned. Which comes from the original grandparents, who at the time where it was forbidden to have relations, did have relations. You get a big Jewish reward here. I mean, give you one of these free passes to Disneyland or something. You get that reward. Excellent. Okay, so once again, Hagar and Yitzchak equal 208 because they are both the same, two sides of the same coin. Okay.
It's almost like nowadays, it's almost like Ishmael is trying to take on the traits of Esau, because doesn't it say, there's a commentary that Ishmael, that they come together?
Yeah, sure, we'll get to that. Oh, believe me, we're going to get to that. Okay. Now, there's a tremendous chidush where I was really shocked, but it exists. And you have to hear it to believe it. Okay? I would never say this if I didn't see it written. If I didn't bring it to you, I would never have the courage, I would never have thought to say this. But I'm going to say it because it's not my words. It's the words of the sages. This is an amazing thing. We started the conversation, and of course we're going to keep on working on it. Sarah's actions towards Hagar, towards Ishmael, eventually, was it the right thing to do or not? We saw two opinions by Avram Sava. We saw the Ramban say, no, this was a strikeout. This was a bad move on her part. It was a bad move on Abraham because Abraham did not rebuke Sarah for her heavy hand that she took against Hagar. Avram kept quiet, and we know that there's a principle in Judaism that if you keep your mouth shut, you are an accomplice to the crime. Okay. We're going to continue on that, but 1 second, let's take another step back. We took a step back on Abraham's age, 86. Okay, but now we're going to take another step back. You know, when you jump, you always first you take a few steps backwards and then you jump. So we're going forward, but we're just taking a few steps here. Okay. Listen to this. The same Rav Avram Sava who condemns Sarah, he also condemns another thing. Listen to this. I'm not making it up. Check it out. It says the following. Rav Avram Sava, 16:16, Genesis 16:16. He says the following: what caused all this damage to the Jewish people, eventually leading to the exile of the Jewish people by the Ishmaelites, by the Arabs, which eventually led to their taking over of our temple, which eventually led them to take over our land, the land of Israel. This was caused by the fact that Abraham listened to Sarah's voice when she suggested taking a Egyptian midwife called Hagar. Why? Why was this a mistake? Because after God had promised him so many times, if we go back to last week's portion of the week, it says at least 5 or 6 times, it says that sometimes it says straight out, and sometimes the Chazal, the rabbis, learn it out. But at least 5 or 6 times it says that God promises Abraham that you will have children. You and Sarah will have children. So Rav Avram Sava says that this was a mistake by Abraham, that he listened to Sarah's suggestion to take this midwife Egyptian woman. Why? After God had promised him that they would have children, why did he expedite, speed up the redemption process? God promised, have patience. Don't jump the gun. You know, there's a famous saying in Arabic that people that jump the gun is from the side of Satan. You know, people that are too jumpy, and before thinking it out and going over it a few times, you know, in their head, sometimes you want to come to a person, we're really upset with them, turns out they did nothing, you know. So you don't want to just jump at a person and it turns out look like an idiot, that the person didn't do what you thought and it was a mistake, and if you would have just been nice and you would ask a couple of questions, you wouldn't have looked bad. Now you made yourself a fool in front of a lot of people sometimes. Okay. I mean, it's an amazing thing. I'm surprised that people are still sitting down. They haven't jumped out the windows, jumped through the roofs, fainted, something. Unbelievable. To say that Abraham here made a mistake. He should not have listened to what Sarah, his wife, said. He should have had patience. They should have had patience, and they would have had a child, and we would not be suffering all these years. 1600 years. Even goes back further, times of talking about Islam. The Islam switch. Okay. Now, if this was a opinion just by one, I don't know if I would have brought it in. But hold on, put a seatbelt on, we're going for another ride. In Midrash HaGadol, Chazal tell us the following. In the portion of the week Vayeshev, 39 chapter, it's on the 10th paragraph. Listen closely. If you think about it, the portion of the week Vayeshev talks about Joseph. Why is the Torah connecting Joseph to Abraham? You'll see why in a second. It says the following. The Torah compares Joseph. Look at Joseph. When the daughter of Potiphera tried to induce him to have relations with her, she put on hundreds of different clothes. What she wore in the morning, she didn't wear in the afternoon. What she wore in the afternoon, she didn't wear in the evening. She did everything possible. She even threatened him. It says in the Gemara, in Yoma, it says that she threatened him. If you don't have relations with me, you know, I'm going to chop your head off. I'm going to break your back. I'm going to blind you. And Joseph refused to listen to her. It says in this Chazal, because of the fact that he did not listen to her, In the end, he won out and he became a king. On the other hand, Abraham, who listened to his wife, who said, please, I want you to marry this midwife called Hagar. He listened to her. What happened to that? It all backfired on her. It all backfired on Sarah. The relations, as we said, up until that point, Hagar had tremendous respect for Sarah, but after she became pregnant, Chazal tell us, the rabbis tell us, that the first night they were together on the eve of their marriage, she immediately became pregnant. Now, I don't want to go on things that we spoke about, but last year we spoke in detail about what was going on, what happened here. What happened here after Hagar changed her relationship, her respect to Sarah. A lot of bad things started happening. Many women that heard about this, that saw what was going on, they no longer came to listen to the pure and holy words of Sarah. Which means that because that Hagar was influencing, she was talking bad. She was talking badly about Sarah. She was telling everybody that, Sarah looks like a righteous woman, but she's really not. What's my proof? Proof is very simple. Look how many years she's been married. She has no kids. Look at me. In one night, first night of the marriage, I'm already pregnant. That must mean that Sarah on the outside, she pretends that she's a righteous woman, but must be on the inside, she's a rotten person. And that's why she doesn't have any children. So this was causing tremendous spiritual damage to all that Sarah had done for all these years to converting women. This was really a blow. And we'll get a little bit further into that soon. Okay. Back to our first question. Sarah's actions towards Hagar, proper or not? We had two opinions, not proper. Okay, hold on tight here. Our third source is from the Netziv Mivolozhin, Rav Naftali Tzvi, Yehuda. The Netziv, in his tremendous commentary on the Torah, he expands on the words of the Torah. In there, he has two commentaries. One is a shorter one, it's called Ha'emek Davar, and a longer, more expansive commentary is called Harchev Davar, to expand. Listen to his words. Vata'aneh Sarai inflicted tremendous agony and pain to Hagar. The Ramban writes that this was a sin of our mother Sarah and also Avram because he kept his mouth closed. Aval lo ken dat Chazal. This is not the opinion of the rabbis, of Chazal. Why? Because Chazal tell us that Sarah was 100% pure, not 99%. There's Agent 99. Agent 99. I'm not going to take off my sandal now to speak into my secret phone. Those that understand. Those that don't, I'm not going to get into it. But Sarah was not 99. She wasn't Agent 99. She was Agent 100%.
And he's 86.
Oh! Woo! Listen, Simcha, he did it again. Listen, they stole that from us. They stole that. Get smart. They stole it. Listen, that's a great one. 86, Agent 86, and Agent 99. That was the age. Okay, that was different ages of Abraham. When he was 86, he had Ishmael. When he was 99, he had the circumcision. Okay, I like that. Okay, so the Netziv goes on to say that many times things that our forefathers or mothers do, many times it might look like it's not kosher, but it just looks like that way from people looking in the outside. But in this case too, he says, do not think, God forbid, that Sarah was worrying about her honor that was being tarnished by Hagar. Not so whatsoever. She couldn't care less if she was trampled upon, if she was not looked on, she was not spoken to pleasantly. It didn't matter to her. What bothered her here was the spiritual damage that was going on. Because according to all these women that Sarah had tremendous influence, let's call it 500,000, all of a sudden, the person that they held on the highest pinnacle, the highest pedestal, which was Sarah, no longer is she a God-fearing woman. According to the words of Hagar, she's not for real. When she's out of the limelight, when she's not on camera, she must not be a righteous woman. Because I got pregnant right away the first night. And look at her, all these years suffering. So this evil, this poisonous words of Hagar, it wasn't that Sarah took them personally and, you're talking bad about me? I'm going to show you. No, we're not talking about that at all. All the actions that were taken by Sarah were because of the fact that this was a desecration of God's name. What was going on, what Hagar was saying, and the influences she was having, the negative influence she was having on these women, it had to be stopped. And therefore that's why she did it. It was all because of the honor of Shammai. So there was no sin here. And it's just that it was burning in her soul. We see many times that the righteous people, they have this certain fire that burns in their souls, and it comes out, and you better watch out. Because if you're in front of them, man, you might get burned. But it comes from a holy fire. It's not an impure fire. So tremendous words. I mean, think about it. Of course, the Netziv lived after, many hundreds of years after the Ramban. But he says, even though the Ramban condemns Sarah and Avram for what they did to Hagar and Ishmael, he says this is not the opinion of Chazal. Okay, just to knock this idea in, we're not finished here. We're going to knock it in. We're going to knock it in one more time. We're going to actually knock it twice. We're going to knock it twice. Rabbeinu Bachye writes on his commentary in the Torah following. Listen closely. We see that afterwards, when Sarah throws out Hagar and Ishmael, first time, okay, she came down with a heavy hand on Hagar. Okay, now she came back. They had a baby, had a child. He's growing up, and now she sees that he's a real bad influence on, besides the world, he's also a bad influence. Ishmael is a bad influence on her son Yitzchak. So she wants to toss both of them out of the house. She wants to toss both of them out of the way. Okay. Now, what does Abraham, who listens to her, what does he give them for the road? On the road again. Looks like we're on the road again. I mean, you got to be a prepper here. I mean, did he give supplies for a couple of weeks, a couple of months? Special tablets, all kinds of, funky foods that you could keep for a while? Torah teaches us that he sent them almost with nothing. Sent them almost with nothing. So, like a vessel of water. Water, you should send somebody with probably a truck of Sparklet's water or something. You send one bottle with somebody into the desert? How long is that going to last? Not too long. I mean, if it's one of those 2 liters babies. So Rabbeinu Bachya says, and unbelievable, he says, I don't understand. Why didn't Abraham send them with riches? Money, silver, gold, camels, and camels and donkeys to carry tons of food so they would have on the road and drink, etc. We don't see that. Why is that? Listen closely. Put on a seatbelt. It's because of the fact that when Sarah said that Abraham should chase them out of the house, should expel them from the house, God said, everything that Sarah says to you, you should listen to her. That's God coming in here. Therefore, he listened to what Sarah had to say. And Sarah did not want Abraham to send any large sums of food or drink, and of course not silver and gold. So therefore, he listened to the inside of what Sarah was saying. He understood from Sarah not only to expel them, but there was a way to do it. And the way to do it was give them the barest of the bare minimum. And therefore, the reason why they were expelled and they received only bread and water, we might be able to say, listen to this unbelievable. Rabbeinu Bachya says that Abraham perhaps looked out into the future and he saw 4,000 years. He saw 4,000 years of Jewish history, and he saw all the tragedies that the Yishmael, the Arab, the Islam, whatever fold it happens to be, was going to cause for the Jewish people. The orphans, people stabbed, people blown up, people burnt. He saw the affliction that his son Ishmael was going to do to the Jewish people. And therefore, he hated him, but not a regular hate, a tremendous hate. Sinah Gdolah. Because there is no, listen to this baby. Okay, this one's going to send it over left field. This is a home runner. Because there is no nation that hates the Jewish people like the nation of the Arabs, the Ishmaelim, Islam. And therefore, Abraham acted like he did. Because this is the way a person should act with the enemy. Listen again. This is the way you act with an enemy. We spoke a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Tremendous people are hesitating. Hesitating means that you're going to get Jews killed. Because one person hesitates, it influences other people, and then you're beginning to doubt yourself, and instead of acting, you didn't act, and you get stabbed in the back. This action, you can't even call it non-action. This decision by the courts, by the government, this is a tremendous Jewish blood is once again on their hand. A few days ago, we had the festival of a wicked prime minister, who was responsible, amongst other people, for the death and murder that's led up to 1,600 Jews being murdered. These people have tremendous blood on their hands. And therefore, this is the way to treat the enemy. And therefore, Abraham only gave them a minimal amount of bread and a minimal amount of water, which we know that ran out very shortly afterwards. Okay, so just the last point, and then we're going to hold it for this week. The last one is the Be'er Moshe. This is a real TKO. This is a knockout punch. He says the following on his commentary on the Torah, Be'er Moshe, on the portion of the week, Lech Lecha, last week's portion of the week. He says the following: come and learn that Sarah, the righteous woman that she was, God forbid, it did not bother her that Hagar was on a personal level looking down. She didn't care if someone looked down at her or looked up at her. It was the same thing for her. That didn't mean anything. What bothered her was the fact of what Hagar was saying, the message that she was spreading to the entire world of that time. And the message was that, you can't really study, you can't really learn anything from Sarah, because she looks like, on the outside exterior, she looks like a righteous woman, but she's really not. It's all a show. And I have the proof, as we spoke before. And therefore, he writes that because of the fact that it was desecration to God's name, therefore, she took such action. And not only that, listen to this. There is a principle of the Torah that is written in the Ramban. The principle goes like the following. Anything that we want to bring down from a spiritual, from the heavenly level, if we want to bring it down to the worldly level, we have to, so to speak, we have to do something on the realistic level. If we want to bring down certain powers, certain rewards from heavens, we have to first carry out on this world such actions which are similar to what God wants to bring us. Listen closely. According to this idea, Sarah looked not in her times. She looked down the road and she saw two milestones. One was Egypt, because Hagar was an Egyptian woman originally, daughter of Pharaoh. She looked and she saw that the Jewish people were going to be subservient to the Egyptians. So she had to do something physically in this world to show, to put on a sort of, she had to put on a true play, not something that's not true. She had to do something in this world's terms to show that the Jewish people would overcome the Egyptians and the Egyptians would be subservient to us. How did she do that? By the fact that the way she related to Hagar, who's from Egypt, she came out with a heavy hand. Because if we want to rule over Egypt, the only way that it's going to come down to this world is if we do something similar in this world which carries the same message. So Sarah was carrying out the message of we are going to take over and Egypt is going to be subservient to us. But she looked down one more level down history's road, not just in Egypt. And what did she see? She saw that the Ishmaelim, the Arabs, Islam, were going to have the Jewish people be subservient. So she took Hagar and she took Ishmael and she afflicted them. Why? Because this was going to be to bring down from heavens that time where the Jewish people will overcome the Ishmaelim, the Arabs, Islam. That's what she saw, and that's why she did what she did to Hagar and Ishmael at that time, in order to bring that force down to the world, that it would be here in the world. And there will come the day that we will overcome Yishmael, we will overcome Egypt. That's why she did what she did. Amazingly, he brings this down from Balaturim. He brings the source down from Balaturim. I looked up the source. I could not find it. I looked in 2 different editions of the Balaturim, and I could not find the source. Only when I saw, when I was able to get my hands on a 3rd edition of the Balaturim, 3rd edition, I saw this source, that the reason why she was so mean and aggravating towards Hagar and Ishmael was she saw that there was going to come a day that we would have to, in order to overcome them, this is the means that we would have to use in order to overcome these evil people.
Very interesting. Sure. I got 2 quick English and American flips on what you were saying, Rabbi.
Okay.
You're saying that the start of this series is going to be called Ishmael or Islam for Dummies, right? So in England, what is a dummy? A dummy is in America we call it a pacifier. They call it a dummy. Right. So it's interesting how we're using this term dummies, and then in America how we perceive Islam, and what the world is pacifying them, and how in England they're pacifying them. So that's very interesting. And then also the word Hagar, and in English there's a word haggard. So it's interesting how we added a D and to the
also in Hebrew. I'm glad you brought that point up.
And it's also Rishon Dalet. It's because in Hebrew they look very similar, those letters.
Hagar in Hebrew, it's also the source is also a fight. It's kind of Tagar is when 2 people fight, and it's also a word. Hagar means when there's 2 people working in the marketplace, and they're all trying to get the same customers. So there's all this kind of inner fighting, etc. So for the Hebrew, if you look at her name, that's exactly what we got.
Shkoyach.